Assalamu alaikum and welcome to Perspective. We'll be talking about the kind of political storm that we've seen for a while. Of course, we've seen the government push towards bold economic reforms to secure, in a sense, stability, to secure trade and all of that. But in the background, we also have a PTI-led opposition which is talking about, again, there seem to be rifts within the party, there seem to be fissures within the party, there seems to be video messages that contradict other leaders of the party within. There seems to be then again a bid for kind of unity. Where are we headed with regard to this opposition? Where are we headed with regard to any kind of working relationship between the government and the opposition? Again, all of that today on Perspective, and whether there can be some sense in this unraveling that we are seeing as far as this political party as a whole is concerned. All of that today on Perspective. I have with me Daniyal Sheikh, who's a political analyst. Thank you for being with us today. We also have Ali Rashid, who's spokesperson in the government. Thank you for joining us today. Barrister Safi Ghauri, who's a political analyst, also a lawyer. Thank you for joining us today. We'll also be joined by Dr. Shezra Mansab Ali, who is, of course, a state minister with PML-N. Thank you for being with us today. Daniyal, as far as the situation at this time is concerned, as far as Azam Sawati's video message is concerned, then we've also seen the kind of pressers that different leaders of PTI have just held. What is this showing? What is this trying to, as far as the party itself is concerned? Do you think it is firmly held at this time? Do you think that there is some kind of cohesion to it? Because when Azam Sawati swears on Quran and he talks about Imran Khan and he was pushed for establishment talks with the establishment, what does it mean when PTI publicly comes out and denies this? Is it something that was expected on the one hand? Is it something that, how does this hypocrisy overall reveal, a leadership that is tearing the party itself?
Well, most certainly, and when I personally think when logic ends, people start taking refuge behind religion, and going to this extent, in my opinion, was it's unprecedented, and it's see, if you want to take the debate on that side, the Quran clearly states that whenever a person is in difficult time, it's because of his conduct. So if you're gonna talk about divine intervention, or if you're gonna take refuge behind religion, so religion says that every person is accountable for his own actions, and that is the reason why people suffer. So in that, if you look at it in that way, then they have to come forward and admit that they made certain mistakes which they're not willing to do, which brought them to this position that their chairman is in jail right now, a lot of other members are in jail, and whatever troubles they have. Having said that, as far as any opposition in democracy is concerned, it is their job to criticize the government, but the criticism should be verbal. It should be in the parliament and outside. They should hold the government accountable. That's understandable. But more than that, they have to keep a check on the government, a constant check, and that is very normal. And the government, as far as the criticism is concerned, they have to show restraint. They have to respond. It is their job. This is why they get the perks and privileges that they're enjoying of being in power. That is the whole purpose.
You're saying that there should be the response should be more forthcoming, in your opinion?
Oh, most certainly. They have to respond to them. They have to engage the masses. See, the whole essence and beauty of democracy is that you engage the masses. There's the genius behind democracy is collective wisdom. If individuals are making decisions, that is not democracy.
Right.
So as far as the party is concerned, I definitely feel right from the start there was an element that does not believe in street agitation, but then there is a group of people which do believe in street agitation, and especially the people in government right now, the chief minister and his cabinet, to keep their jobs secure and to keep the incarcerated leader happy, they have to constantly show him that they are doing something to tear down the system. Whereas verbal criticism is concerned, that is the fundamental duty. Like the reason why they were given the Public Accounts Committee.
Let me come back to you. I agree with you're saying that there needs to be criticism as far as the opposition. There has to be from the opposition necessarily. Let me go to Ali Rashid. Ali, if we talk about this, I hope you heard what Daniyal here is saying. He's saying that there has to be one criticism from the opposition, which is what their mandate is for. But the question is is that being sufficiently addressed? One, because some of the members of the government feel that there's really no need to address the government. On the other hand, if we look at the message that Azam Sawati Saab's video has sent, does it mean he's also criticizing the governance within PTI, in KP? Is that also showing that there are loyalists that are themselves losing faith in the party as a whole, so the government feels they really don't need to indulge in that kind of answer or answer the claims of the opposition?
Thank you so much for having me here. I feel that PTI itself, as you can see, that they have a lot of confusion within the party. A reason I feel the government currently is not wanting to engage or is not, I think the government is also very confused. That if we should speak to PTI, then which faction of PTI should we speak to? And is that faction, will that faction eventually and or still have the backing of the founder of the PTI in the future? For example, if they start talking to Gandapur, now tomorrow there's no guarantee that Gandapur can actually secure the talks and whatever discussions or whatever agreements, or what consensus, even if we come to consensus, even if the government comes to consensus with PTI on certain matters, there is no guarantee from their side, because this, it's like every new day, something new is there, which needs to be addressed. Secondly, the speaker who was speaking earlier, I totally agree with him. Sometimes the PTI now, it seems like that they have no issues to raise. It's more of the fact that they have their leader in jail, who is obviously, who has FOMO, because he's like, everything going on outside, I'm inside, and what are you guys doing? Are you having fun? Are you just enjoying the perks and privileges? Are you doing anything about me? So so they need to come out and start some kind of start have a press conference, have some kind of nuisance value, just to justify.
Are you saying that the kind of infighting that we've seen recently between people, people like, for example, Salman Raja and of course other leaders of the PTI, is being done just to amuse Imran Khan Sahib in jail?
Absolutely. I think 101%. I feel there are some people who genuinely within PTI who want to resolve issues. Then there are some people who just want to create havoc and chaos. And they understand that the day Khan comes out, we won't enjoy that kind of power, decision making. We won't thrive on the confusion. Right now, if anything, I mean, there's so much going on. Who is keeping tabs or accountability within the party? If there's corruption in KP, who's talking about that? If there's misgovernance in KP, who's talking about that? Right now, they're so busy with the fact that they need to talk to the government, they need to get Khan out, they need to uh, resolve issues among them. So a lot is being, um, a lot is being a lot is being not being a lot of it is being hidden from the public and the party workers. That what kind of news, what kind of things are being done. So I feel some people are benefiting from that. They want Khan to be in jail. They're trying to create a situation where whenever things go smoothly with the government, any talks, they try to come and you'll see someone will come out and give a statement which will be totally against the party policy, and then they'll go say something to Imran Khan and try to sabotage things. So and we've Mahrukh, we've been having this exact same conversation, you and I and other participants on the show, about PTI and the talks and where things are heading. And surprisingly, nothing new has come. It is the same old rhetoric.
But there are, I agree, Ali, I'll come back to you, but let me include Safiullah in this also. Safiullah, there is, of course, this press conference that we are talking about as far as Sawati Saab is concerned. It does raise some interesting questions for the PTI as a whole. Also, their viability in the background of these accusations that are not just coming from, the kind of accusations that he's making versus the refutations that are also coming. And whether these refutations, when we look at, the two different narratives that are being put forward by people like, Salman Raja, and of course we saw what Barrister Ghauri said and all, there is, seem to be sort of destroying each other. Wouldn't you agree?
Absolutely, Mahrukh. And honestly, I think what both of the guests, Daniyal and Ali, have said, I don't have too much to add on to the kind of drama that has been taking place within PTI. What's happening in PTI is something that we had all predicted. Why this was something that every single person had already warned them against. You on your show, Ali had previously said this, Daniyal had previously said this, I have been saying this for a very long time. The same thing, that if you have such an aggressive outlook towards all other parties, and then when you don't have somebody else to attack, then you start attacking yourself. If you have this disparaging approach towards things, you start self cannibalizing. It was only a matter of time, Mahrukh. It was only a matter of time before this would have turned around and turned on PTI itself. And that's what's happening, because that's the training that their leader taught them. He taught them to be illogical, taught them to be extremely disparaging, taught them to be violent, taught them to be rude. And sure, they did so against the government, but the government held strong. They did not allow them to cross certain boundaries. They realized that they cannot cross those boundaries with the government anymore. They tried crossing those boundaries with the judiciary. The judiciary struck them off. They tried crossing those boundaries with the military. The military stood its ground. Everybody stood their ground. Everybody understood that if they stand their ground long enough, the party will just turn on itself, which is exactly what we're seeing. This was bound to happen.
But is it also, in your opinion, a ploy to dodge accountability? Because, on the one hand, if they're silent in the wake of such accusations, what is it saying? And is it a way to deflect attention from that when this kind of an infighting starts between them?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I think that's what they've always done. This is something. It's not about infighting. It's about always dodging responsibility. The one thing they will not do is get to work. They will do anything but get to work. They will try infighting. They will try inciting. They will try negotiating. They will do anything but work on the one province that they have, KPK, and try to improve the lives of those people. That is what we have unfortunately seen. Everything else to me just looks like an eyewash. uh, Maybe the infighting is taking place because they have now realized that they need to take responsibility, and nobody wants to take responsibility. Nobody has any real work experience. The people are probably asking them why they have not delivered. In an ideal situation, if PTI was in fact working, they would be in a very good position to start asking for snap elections or midterms or something of the sort, like we've seen all across the world. But now, for the first time, we can very clearly see that the PTI is not in any position to ask for any such thing, because they've realized that they will themselves fail within KPK. And so this is it. They're deflecting responsibility. This is the writing on the wall, Manav. We know what's happening.
But Safiullah, the litmus test for whether that's actually happening would be whether the government and other main political parties have been able to erode their vote bank. And that is the ultimate test, right? That it will eventually prove. And on that, I'll come back to you. I will come back to you. I have Dr. Shezra with me. Dr. Shezra, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Dr. Shezra, we're talking, there's a lot of misinformation that we've seen Azam Sawati Saab talk about and, against, as far as the YouTubers all over that support PTI, social media content that supports PTI is concerned. On the other hand, of course, as far as the party as a whole is concerned, it continues to look the other way, channeling support from it when they want to, trying to distance themselves when they want to. What kind of an approach is this as far as, this kind of social media content is concerned, this kind of misinformation that comes from all over as far as PTI's social media is concerned?
Thank you for having me on your show, Mahrukh. The thing is that PTI never grew as an organically as a party. In 2018, the former chairman collected all sorts of electables, interims, plain, and then collected them, and then they those elections which were rigged. After that, this time he collected lawyers from all over and then just gave them tickets. So it's not an organic party, and everybody there thinks and wants and desires power, especially now when the former chairman is incarcerated. So everybody is wanting power, and there is a lot of discontent amongst them. And at the same time, the social media, which is mostly based abroad, and they're doing their own thing. And so some of these people who want negotiations and all that are not very happy with what's happening at the social media. And the way that the former chairman of the party really tries to organize his parties, to pitch everybody against each other and to just watch them, because his main concern is that nobody should get that sort of power or that sort of adulation. Whenever he sees somebody getting popular, he just throws them out of the party. So there have been groups coming in and going out of the party all this time. So the misinformation and the disinformation that the social media is doing, they're living in their own place. As one of their themselves, I heard, was saying that they live in a bubble of their own and they don't have anything to do with reality as such. So there are so many different factions now within the party, and everybody has a different way, different approach, a different way of moving forward. But the crux of the matter is that this is encouraged by the former chairman. It's not as if he doesn't want this to happen. He wants all this to go on so that when and if he thinks that he will come out, he will still have that kind of cult following. However, what to say about when you just mentioned the vote bank, one thing that has definitely happened and that is there in front of our eyes is that people have stopped coming out for them. This is why they are now trying to talk to other parties like Maulana and other parties and trying to, they were, before Eid, there was this whole thing that they were going to have a big show after Eid. But now you can see that the other parties are not with them. The other parties do not want to follow their agenda. And so PTI knows that people are not going to come out into the roads for them anymore. People are now really discontented. Their voter is discontented and disillusioned.
Dr. Shezra, that of course also that, but there's a lot of critics have also said that Azam Sawati Sahab sounded fed up when he spoke about this, the YouTubers and social media content that's coming. Do you think that there is in general that feeling that is permeated within the leaders of PTI also, but they lack the power to actually do anything about this?
Yes, certainly. Because in recent times there have been talk of negotiations, and the chairman himself, the former chairman, keeps saying and keeps wishing and wanting to talk to the establishment. This is something that he has never hidden. This is something that, but then at the same time, some kind of a tweet or something on the social media will talk against the establishment, will talk against the army, and really undermine any hope of talks that they might have had at any point. So the present leadership obviously is bewildered by this strange, sort of opposition that is going on now within, where some of them want that they should go towards negotiations, go towards talks, try and have some kind of a pact or whatever they want. But the other faction, that is basically mostly the social media, keep undermining that and keep wanting that this kind of a thing. And it's very easy for them actually to do that because most of them are not here. Most of them are not based in Pakistan. Most of them are not in touch with the reality of Pakistan, and most of them don't know how difficult it is to get a crowd out into the roads. Now, nobody's coming out for them, but they are just continuing with their own this narrative that they have built for themselves.
So much, Shezra. Thank you for being with us. I know you have limited time. Thank you for joining us. Ji, Daniyal, as far as this content is concerned, do you think on the one hand there is, this digital chaos is being created, as far as PTI, those leaders like Sawati Saab also, who seem fed up, think that it's going to lead to, it's being generated against the party to, of course, to further create chaos, because it's also doing that within the party.
Well, yes, that I can see happening, but more than that, when I was listening to the representative of the government, Dr. Shezra, see the biggest problem I feel right now is that the government is a bit too confident.
Okay.
You see, in third world countries, especially in third world countries, because the resources that the government has, they're so scarce, and the masses they have, their problems are so big, and see, the biggest threat to any government is incumbency factor. For one reason or the other, the people will, they won't be able to engage the masses in their agenda. It's already a problem. Now that problem, the government is, I can clearly see they're not interested in addressing. See, just by saying that they have lost their mandate, just by saying, this reminds me of that race between a tortoise and a rabbit. If the government is going to be so confident.
But she's saying people are not coming out for this party anymore.
Whether they're coming out or not, that's not, see, this is something, if I as a political analyst was saying, it would make sense. A person representing the government or a politician in general has to be proactive. And they have to be proactive and active in countering those agendas or those narratives which are coming from their side. A hypothetical scenario in their, for example, I'll give you an example. In their manifesto, one of the things that they emphasized the most was the local government system, which has been crippled. They have taken back the funds, although 25% of the NFC award goes directly to the local government, they have not given it. Now the federal government or the opposition in Pakhtunkhwa, nobody has raised that issue. Similarly, if you want to, just by criticizing or their narrative is not enough. You need to criticize their government, their governance. Now, as far as the spokesperson for the Sindh government was saying that which faction should we talk about, see now, and the argument.
But Daniyal, isn't the government actually just saying, and I'm going to go with this to Ali also, that they're essentially saying that our progress is outshining the noise that you are making.
See, until and unless you expose an agenda, it's not enough to convince the people.
Okay,
if the people were to make decisions themselves, then there was no point in having political parties and having a parliament and having chairmen of the party. The party, the people in charge have to take the opposition serious, and they have to expose their lies. If they're not going to expose them, it's not going to happen through divine intervention, it's not going to happen by itself. Like I told you about the local government, I'll give you an example. In 2008, when People's Party was in power, it was the then President Asif Zahi, it was his brainchild to do an agreement with the Taliban in Swat. He got a lot of criticism. But later on, what happened was, after that agreement, they were for some time, they were given an offer to come into mainstream. But later on, when they violated that agreement, the whole country found out their true agenda. And
they were exposed.
And that was the point when the masses rallied against that agenda, the fundamentalist agenda. Now, less than that, it wasn't possible. Before that agreement and before the violation of the agreement, the people were confused, because that narrative was also making sense. Now, instead of just sitting down and saying people have rejected their agenda, that's not enough. The government should constantly engage whichever faction they can and expose them. If they're going to break their treaties or their agreements or whatever, that is going to make a difference. Or secondly, the governance needs to be exposed. Like I give you an example of the local government.
But they themselves, let me include Ali in this. Ali, do you agree with what Daniyal is saying? Because, aren't they themselves exposing the misgovernance? If we look at Azam Sawati Saab's press conference, he is himself talking about what's happening in KP.
That's not enough.
So if they're doing it already, does the government also need to do it, Ali?
Absolutely. I do agree with Daniyal to a certain extent that it needs to be exposed, but also I agree with you that they're doing it themselves. But I think the government currently is so busy in progress and highlighting that they don't want to get into any negativity. Right now, if you look at Sindh and Punjab, the two governments, you'll very frequently you'll watch press conferences which they'll be having against each other these days, but not because of anything, because they're in competition. We're talking about Punjab said this. We've just launched electric buses, and this is the first time in Pakistan. So there was a press conference from Sindh government saying, "No, this has already been done in Sindh." So we're competing. We are trying to compete with each other, complement each other. This way, this kind of the people are liking it, and the federal government, I'll say, okay, look, the numbers don't lie. The inflation was at 38%. Now it's come down to like 1%. Might go to negative. The stock market is surging. The jobs are being created. You see all these Saudi, UAE, different, delegations coming, which are investing in Pakistan. You just saw the mineral conference. I'm not an advocate or a spokesperson for the federal government, but I'm just saying that things are looking positive, and people are realizing that. And end of the day, people are like, look, there's an extent where we want to go to this confrontation, get out of the roads.
So what Ali is essentially saying is that if they're already walking the talk, why do they need to make noise? And I'll come back to you, Daniyal, on this. I see you want to say something, but let me go to Safiullah on this also. Safiullah, do you have something to add to this debate as a whole? Because it's two different approaches. As far as Daniyal is concerned, he's saying that talk about it more, but when the work is being done and it's showing up in different ways, does the government necessarily have to do it as a strategy? Do you think this strategy is working? That we're outshining you anyway, look at our work, look at what we're doing, and this is what we've done, versus what the PTI is doing, and the elements within PTI that are doing the exposing for them.
So obviously, Mahrukh, there is no compromise on actual work that has to be done. There is no denying that work needs to be done. But unfortunately, in today's day and age, perceptions play a massive role in everything. Now, PTI, despite not having done any work at all, managed to create a perception in the public of it being a very driven, honest party, and therefore they managed to rally a lot of people. The government, every time it does not answer the accusations that are levied by PTI, does so at its own loss. It does so by not tackling the kind of incompetence that PTI has displayed in KPK. The government is the one that is losing, because the people just the people don't understand it. The people need to be constantly spoon fed, and it's very unfortunate. Like, even though the people might be experiencing some sort of an improvement in their lifestyles, the people might be experiencing better services, better infrastructure, they will still continue to listen to all the negativity that is emanating from PTI. And I want to add here that this is not just negativity, political negativity. So I think it's worked out between the kind of tussle that's taking place between Punjab and Sindh.
But if it's coming from their own party, isn't it having more effect for the public?
No, so that's the point I'm trying to make. At the end of the day, as a country, you also need to safeguard the national image that your country has. The national image that PTI has presented to the whole world is that Pakistan is conducting human rights abuses. Do you not want to tackle that on an international scale? Do you want the people to think that we are a country that is violating international laws, that we are violating human laws, that we are violating international humanitarian law, that we are capricious and whimsical in the way we give out contracts? We want the investors who are coming in right now to the mineral conference, do we want them to believe the PTI narrative, which is that the government is extremely corrupt? Or do we want them to believe the narrative that, no, the government is dependable, and if you invest within Pakistan, you will get solid returns, that there is rule of law, that contracts will be honored? So here's the problem. The problem is that the kind of noise that PTI is making is not limited to this the political parties within Pakistan. They're trying to rally congressmen in the US. They're going to people in the UK. They're reaching out people in Israel and in India and everywhere in the world that they can possibly get support. And I say this with a lot of responsibility, but I'm not in Pakistan right now. I think you know that I'm in Brazil, so I don't have like the Pakistani algorithm that works for me. Now, when I open up my Twitter and I look at posts, most of the posts about Pakistan are negative. They are from PTI and they are being supported by Indians. All you do is you see that the hundreds of likes they're getting are from India. The retweets that they're getting are from India. They're from Israel. And that's the problem. Like I can actually just screenshot everything.
Right, but when we look at that and when we look at the fact that they seem to be playing to the agenda that is coming, anti-Pakistan, anti-national agenda that's coming from across the border, they're themselves, what the government is saying that look, they're exposing themselves. When we look at, when we talk about PM's vision, economic vision that he's showcasing, we talk about, of course, the fact that there are investor conferences taking place. We talk about the fact that, the Prime Minister leaders, we saw in Azerbaijan with the president's aim for export-led growth. We've seen, Prime Minister's Udan Pakistan plan. We are seeing all of these things come out. So the government is essentially saying that, the perception that we are trying to build is being built by our work instead of making a lot of noise. So it's really, a strategy, right? Whereas, the kind of lies, the kind of slander, and Daniyal can correct me if I'm wrong, and then I'll come back to Safiullah, that, the kind of lies and slander that comes a lot of times from the PTI controlled accounts that are not even in Pakistan is extremely difficult to, how does one control it? Isn't it better to just, tell the world by what the work is being done?
If we were living in a first world country and if our masses were educated, I would agree with what you are saying, what the Minister Sahaba was said, and what Ali was saying.
You don't think that they're tearing themselves apart?
This is not enough, and by thinking so and not having a more vigorous approach towards their propaganda, it's not going to benefit the government in long term. See, unfortunately, like Safi was saying, I would add to what he was saying, see, perceptions are larger than reality. They managed to build a perception. Now that perception has to be taken on. If they're going to think that it's just going to go away on its own, that's not enough.
But I think that perception is being overridden by the kind of fissures they've exposed. That perception is being overridden by ridicule, by two people who are having a press conference together but saying two different things entirely. And with the social media again playing up, unbiased social media completely playing up those clips showing that there is clear, acrimony there, there's clear conflict there, there's clear division there in the narrative also. So how does, what does the government do except sit back and look that they're doing it for them?
That is one aspect, but the other is that all those lies that they have committed to the people, if the government is not going to come forward and expose them, and the government also needs to start engaging with people, and as far as their agenda is concerned, the stakeholders in society, those people who can convey, like for instance, see, the religious people or the clergies,
okay,
they need
I will answer that for you, and I'll let Ali answer that actually. Ali, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Ali, we're talking about, let's look at the situation at this time. We are talking about things like, again, like I said, the Udan program. We are talking about Shehbaz Sharif Saab, Saudi Arabia, Uzbekistan, Azerbaijan, Dubai, the economic wins as far as Pakistan is concerned, 2.4% inflation, the IMF deal, contrasting this with what the PTI is giving you, contrasting this with the kind of press conference that you are watching, contrasting this with the kind of videos by leaders who have had a strong bond with PTI like Azam Sawati, who actually sounds like he is just at his wits end with what's happening. How do you play this up more? This is my question to all of this that's being said as far as the government is concerned.
Yeah, I would like to add a very important point. All this which you mentioned, all the accomplishments of the government in contrast and comparison with what PTI is doing, just realize it's despite what all PTI has done with the coming out on the roads, on these, on the conferences when important delegations are here, lobbying against Pakistan. I won't say against any party, literally against Pakistan, with the US government, etc., etc. Despite those challenges, the government has been able to deliver and come through and do all these things and been able to accomplish. Imagine if the government had an opposition which is an opposition, which would raise issues, would not become nuisance for no reason, would not come out on the streets, not resort to violence, not make fake, I mean, there's some operation going on Balochistan, and from PTI's handles, they're making AI videos which have been retweeted. I mean, whose side are you on, right? Are you with Pakistan or are you with some foreign hands which are against Pakistan? It doesn't make sense to me. The May 9th, if you connect the dots, it's pretty simple. I mean, I think life is simple, we complicated. If you want to know PTI's agenda, I think it's very, very clear now. Initially, I used to give them the benefit of the doubt that maybe, in the heat of the moment, they've gone too far and they've done too much or they've said too much. But now I've come to the conclusion, and this is my personal opinion, that this is by design, this is all engineered, and they're just doing it to harm Pakistan.
So you think exposing themselves like this with, whatever they are doing is going to inevitably lead to, the kind of disarray that seems to be starting itself?
Obviously, I mean, look at it. I am a very social person when it comes to meeting people, and I'm not averse to like meeting people from other parties. When I travel and I meet people, I have a lot of friends who are political leaders in PTI, who are political workers of PTI, and it is they're really demoralized, demotivated, and they're just like a lot of them have distanced themselves from PTI. And these are people who used to fight for me, being my close friends. They used to stand up for PTI. Some relatives of mine too, who used to not care about family relations, would not care about friendships, but would be staunch supporters of PTI. Those same people are fed up and are criticizing PTI. So it's about time that PTI should do some soul searching and look within their ranks and get their house in order before they can do anything. Before talk to the government or talk about anything, they need to get their house in order. And this is very advice to them through your platform.
What Ali is saying, the soul searching that Ali is talking about, the kind of, the questions, the tough questions that they need to ask themselves, the questions they need to ask their own leadership in KP, the kind of cohesion that is needed. Do you think that it's possible at all, or is it something like you said, I think, that their leader, doesn't mind this kind of disarray because he wants to retain effective control?
Sorry, is the question for me?
Ji.
Right. So, Mahrukh, I agree with what Ali has said, that the way PTI works is by dividing people in the country, by dividing people within its own ranks. Well, I tell people very often a very interesting story. Once a delegation from PTI visited me. This is when I was in Islamabad as a lawyer, and they wanted to file a case against PTI, the political party. And the issue was, and I'm not going to take names here, but the issue was that they came to me and they said that they had been promised a ticket, but now they have learned that there another faction within PTI in the same constituency has also been promised a ticket, and then another one has also been promised a ticket, and another one has also been promised a ticket. Like, there were 4 people, all 4 of them separately promised tickets by the leader, and having told each of them negative things about each other. And they had that in recording, so they wanted to file a case against PTI. I obviously at that point of time advised them not to, and did not take the matter to court because it would have been a stupid thing. But that is how the PTI functions. The PTI functions by continuously making even the leaders fight each other, telling them that if you bring more people to this particular dharna than he does, then he will get the ticket and you will not get the ticket. This is their control mechanism, dividing the country, dividing their own political party, and divide and control. This is what our colonial masters have taught us, and this is something that PTI is continuing today. And it's very important to understand the mentality of PTI, because the vast majority of PTI's intellectual output, financial output, and spiritual output seems to be coming from outside of Pakistan. The journalists who support PTI are sitting outside of Pakistan. These are people who are not within Pakistan. They are outside of Pakistan. A lot of them are foreign nationals. They have dual nationalities. They have allegiance to other countries. And I myself am an overseas Pakistani right now. And I say this with full responsibility, that overseas Pakistanis are not as invested in Pakistan as Pakistanis within Pakistan are. The Pakistanis within Pakistan are the ones who are suffering on a daily basis. They are the ones who understand what the problem is. The people who are overseas are behaving to a large degree like the colonial overlords that they have been sort of trained to be, because that's what they suffered, and now they have decided that they want to come and do the same thing. They won't tell us what things are like. They won't tell us what things are in the USA, which is not applicable to us. We are not the USA. We are not the UK.
Exactly. On that note, thank you so much for being with us, Daniyal Sheikh. Thank you for joining us today. Mohammed Ali Rashid, thank you for being with us. Barrister Safi Ghauri, thank you for joining us. Dr. Shezra Mansab, thank you for being with us. It's extremely important that the government at this time believes that what is happening is a PTI dismantling quite fast and also exposing itself. It's them against them. Why should the government then get into the ring when the fight is already being fought for them? In terms of their narrative, in terms of their performance, they're saying, let our work do the talking. Thank you so much for joining us today on Perspective.